Welcome to the WWE Podcast News Brief here on Thursday, September 16th, 2021. Let's jump right into the news, and we've got some big news, really. I mean, I don't do these just to talk about things that are insignificant, and Bray Wyatt, I'm going to start right there, has dropped a really big hint on his pro wrestling future, and this is, again, according to Wrestling Inc., which I'm a big proponent of Wrestling Inc., there's your free promotion, Wrestling Inc. They are obviously very big, and I know I quote them a lot, but and everyone has access to them. But I'm reporting it to you in case you haven't listened to it, and I'm going to give you my spin on it. So here we go. Former WWE champion Bray Wyatt has assured his Fireflies or fans that they will all be seeing him, quote unquote, very soon inside a pro wrestling ring. While responding to a fan on Twitter on Wednesday, Wyatt wrote the following, and we quote here, "Everything will be clear. I'll see you all very soon. Revenge is a confession of pain." Through another tweet, Wyatt mentioned how fans have never seen the real me, which could be a possible reference to how he was booked throughout his entire WWE career. So that's big. I mean, that tells you Bray Wyatt should be all elite. Now, could he show up somewhere else? Sure. But who in their right mind would not want to join AEW right now? AEW is on fire. They are the new cool kid on the block. WWE has become complacent in their, and almost in an arrogant way, where they just know certain people and a certain number of people are going to go watch their shows, and they feel maybe they don't need to push as hard as they have to. But now WWE is being challenged by AEW, and the morale apparently is super high right now in AEW. Morale is at an all-time high from what I'm hearing backstage. That was also another story here. And why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be? Fans are just as excited as I think the talent are. And you know, I don't think I've seen genuine excitement for a promotion in my lifetime like this. It's a cool time to be a wrestling fan. It's a really cool time to be a wrestling fan. Watching this company grow, watching this company turn stars that WWE couldn't maximize, and letting them loose in a creative, free environment, and letting them just be themselves. And amazing how that can work in their favor when you're not micromanaged. AEW is, right now, they are doing things correctly. Clearly, they're doing things the right way. The ratings show it. We'll get to that at the end of the show. As far as AEW versus WWE in ratings, we'll get to that. It's a big, big deal here. And AEW just knows what the fans want. And that's just, it's not WWE. Whatever WWE is, they don't want to be. And that's awesome. The question, of course, becomes, are they going to get too big too soon? They have to manage their growth here. That's with any organization. Oftentimes, growing too quickly can be your undoing, because you pick up so much talent. You're just going 100 miles an hour. You're not making informed decisions. You're not taking a step back and thinking and slowing down and looking at long term. And just being in the moment, hire this talent, hire that talent. Let's do this, let's do that. I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm not saying they're guilty of that. I'm not saying anyone in AEW is doing that. I'm just saying that as a whole, for any organization, I don't care if it's a wrestling company, a tech company, whatever, you need to manage your growth. You need to understand what your mission is. And when things get crazy, that's when you need to even double down more and just take a step back, see where you're at, open your eyes, and see the forest through the trees, as they say. Again, I'm not saying AEW is doing that, but anyway, enough of the business lesson for AEW, of which I'm sure they're well aware of. So this is cool. Bray Wyatt dropping a massive hint that we'll be seeing him all very soon. Could it be at Grand Slam, of which Mimi Burris, our resident AEW review host here on the WWE podcast, is going to be attending? Could it be? Could it be at the next pay-per-view? I don't know. But real soon, you would think a month or so would be the time frame of what quote unquote real soon means. And I think Bray Wyatt is going to just continue the momentum. I think fans are going to be so excited to see Bray Wyatt. I don't see him in any other promotion. There's just no reason to go to Impact, New Japan, Ring of Honor, WWE. Hell no. Could it be WWE? I guess, but I don't think with the statement of you've never seen the real me. That tells me that he's going to a place where he can be himself. That's the implication. And in WWE, you're often told, here's what you're going to be. And instead, Bray's going to show us who he really is, which is going to be fun. I don't know what it's going to be. We don't obviously know. But boy, oh boy, it's just going to be another shot in the arm of AEW. And at some point, this momentum has to slow for AEW. It's going to. It's the nature of the beast, where there's going to be a period of time, maybe 6 months to a year. I'm not saying it's going to happen right now, but in the next few years, there'll be a significant period of time where there's been no new big hires. Maybe creative starts to get a little flat, TV ratings flatten out or decline slowly. And I don't want everyone to get concerned. I think that's a natural progression or a natural cycle of any growing organization. The key is to see a slow, steady increase over time. So I don't know why I'm doing all these business lessons as if, I'm some kind of professor. But anyway, maybe it's because I have my MBA. Yeah. So I know more than you. Of course, that just turned me heel, didn't it? I don't know why I'm spinning this out. I really don't. But I want to just give you guys a little bit more of a business perspective of this, because I think it's very important to look at it that way, even as a fan. Okay, so a little bit more in this article. It says, as reported earlier, Wyatt is expected to start with AEW soon and could potentially make his debut on the September 29th edition of AEW Dynamite, which is held in Rochester, New York. Rochester is the hometown of late Brody Lee. The potential date for Wyatt's AEW debut contradicts earlier reports that his 90-day non-compete clause with WWE would expire on Friday, October 29th, a week before AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view on November 6th. The report also noted that if Wyatt ends up with Impact Wrestling, he could debut at the October 23rd Bound for Glory pay-per-view in Vegas. As noted, Wyatt also had a brief Twitter exchange with new WWE champion Big E on Wednesday, and the tweets can be seen below, of which I'm reading, and it's exactly what I just told you about. You've never seen the real me. There's nothing new that you're missing. But if you want to look at that exchange, of course, you can go to Bray Wyatt's Twitter feed and see it for yourself. Again, while this article does mention that he could indeed show up in Vegas for Impact's Bound for Glory, Impact is not on anyone's mind right now. I'm sorry, it's not. Impact, while I respect the company, I hope they continue to exist. I hope they continue to grow. I do. They're just not anywhere near the level of excitement, enthusiasm, and growth that AEW right now has, and really the deep pockets of Tony Khan that can bring in these stars, that can afford to bring in these stars and help them get what they deserve and keep them with the salary that they feel they deserve. Because coming from WWE, you have a certain lifestyle that you have been afforded because of how WWE pays their talent, which is obviously usually very well. And going to another organization, you would be concerned that, hey, it's going to drop off. Well, with Tony Khan, it's very unlikely. The guy's pockets are very deep. So I'm excited about this. I think indeed you will see Bray Wyatt in AEW sooner than later. September 29th does seem logical, given that it's held in Rochester, Dynamite that is. It's the hometown of Brody Lee. And that is one of the biggest reasons that he had issues in WWE towards the end, was his ability to deal with the death of Brody Lee. Obviously, they were really good friends in real life, and it would be very fitting, very poetic for him to debut in the place that his best friend was from. And that would be very cool, very touching, and I'd love to see how that plays out on September 29th. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And let's get to the next story here. All right, Edge. Edge has revealed who he wants to have a quote-unquote mega match with on SmackDown. This is from sportskeeda.com, and here's what they say. Edge spoke with Sports Illustrated in an exclusive interview mentioning that he wanted to face Sami Zayn in the future. Last week, Edge and Seth Rollins tore the house down in a barn burner of a match at Madison Square Garden. The rematch had big shoes to fill after their match of the year contender at SummerSlam. The two men went to war with one another again in a main event worthy matchup. And speaking ahead of his stellar clash with Seth Rollins, Edge mentioned that he would love to work with Sami Zayn. He wanted the match to be in Toronto with the Canadian versus the Canadian aspect in the backdrop of the feud. Edge detailed that Sami had perfected the art of getting the crowd to boo him as a heel, and a match with him would make for good television. So here's what Edge said as a quote here. I would love to share the ring with Sami Zayn. There is a key to Sami's success. There's an element of truth to all his promos. As a heel, you have to have that nugget of truth. If you have it, you can push everything else forward. So his promos feel much more real. He's doing incredible work. The crowd just knows to boo this guy. That's to his credit. His promos, his character work, Sami is incredible. So, yes, I would love to see this. I think after Edge and Seth conclude, which will probably be whenever their next match is, I mean, you can't just have Edge go right to Sami Zayn here. Number one, Edge is in a quote-unquote injured storyline right now. I don't know how long he's going to be out and recovering, again, in storyline, not in real life. So once he does return, he has to finish things up with Seth Rollins. And I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know what their target is for that final match. So whenever that concludes, you could easily go to Sami Zayn. Now, in the meantime, if Edge can convince management that that's who his next opponent should be, and I agree, that Sami Zayn WWE Creative needs to start building Sami Zayn as more than just a heel that can talk really well on the mic, get heat, but ultimately get his ass kicked and end up looking at the lights. WWE Creative needs to build more credibility with Sami Zayn. Again, Sami Zayn, as good as he is, and I love his gimmick. I'm a big fan. I'm with Edge here. I think Sami Zayn right now is damaged goods in terms of being a credible opponent that could take out Edge legitimately. And I'm not saying that Sami needs to be a world beater and go on this tear and nobody can beat him. I'm okay even if he just goes on a streak where he's cheating to win and he's doing underhanded things, being vicious. Even after winning the match, he continues to beat down his opponent, low blows, gouge to the eyes, behind the referee's back, foreign objects, help from another fellow heel. All of those, I think, are on the table for Sami, but they need to do a lot of groundwork. They do. And I'm a big proponent. Even if they don't have him feud with Edge, Sami Zayn, I think, is a really missed commodity right now. I think he's underutilized in a big, big way. I think he could be WWE champion. I would love to see a Sami Zayn WWE championship run. So that's just me. Okay, let's get to AEW and WWE. AEW Dynamite has topped WWE Raw in a key demographic again. So here's the article again. Wrestling Inc. I kind of bounced between Wrestling Inc. and Sportskeeda, giving credit where it's due. Wednesday's live AEW Dynamite episode reportedly drew 1.175 million viewers. Yeah, 1.175 million viewers on TNT, according to Showbuzz Daily. This is down 10.9% from last week's Post All Out episode, which drew 1.3 million viewers, which was the second best viewership in the history of the show. Dynamite drew, now here's the key here. Dynamite drew a 0.44 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic this week. This is down 15% from last week's 0.52 rating for the Post All Out show. The 0.44 key demographic represents around 574,000 viewers who watched the show from that 18 to 49 demo. This is down 15.7% from last week's 681,000 in that demographic. That's according to WrestleNomics. Okay. It's interesting to note that Dynamite beat this week's WWE Raw in key demographic viewers for the second week in a row. Dynamite drew, as I said, a 0.44 rating in that key demographic, and Raw drew a 0.43. Last week saw the two shows tie with a 0.44 key demo, but Dynamite drew more viewers in the demo, 681,000 to 678,000, only a 3,000 viewership spread, which is razor thin. I mean, you'd almost want to recount on that, but that is a big deal. Now, some of you may be saying, oh, they're not beating WWE in ratings. And overall, no, they're not. But you know what? WWE should be beating AEW right now. The fact that AEW is even this close to WWE, I think is it's representative of WWE's complacency and mismanagement over many, many years. This isn't just the last 6 to 12 months where massive releases, bad publicity, sometimes rewriting the shows, chaos backstage, Vince doesn't know where he's at half the time. It's not just that this has been a trend for really 5, 10, 15 years now. It's been on this kind of steady decline over time. Go look at the ratings. This isn't just a recent problem for WWE. This has been from really a slow death, and I shouldn't say death, a slow decline, because WWE is not going anywhere, from, my God, like, mid 2000s to now. And it's been kind of, again, if you look at the chart, it is an overall downward trend. So there's that. And then you have the mismanagement. And then AEW comes along and they give the fans, particularly this demo, this key demographic, what they want from professional wrestling, while WWE continues to flounder. And now you've got a recipe for massive success in AEW, massive growth in AEW, and you've got a bigger problem in WWE. Not just, the ratings are a symptom. The real problem in WWE is mismanagement. Creative is a disaster. I think there's too many people on creative. That could be a whole show. I'm not going to get into it. But that's my point, is that the key demographic is that key demographic because they are the lifeblood of WWE. They are the ones who are the consumers of WWE as a whole. You may say, oh, well, you could be a 35-year-old and have two kids that watch wrestling. They're not the ones watching. He's not the one watching wrestling. His kids are. Well, yeah, but guess who's buying the stuff for the kids? Yeah. So the 18 to 49 demo, are the ones who are the true consumers and the foundational structure of pro wrestling. We are the one. Our demo is why pro wrestling exists. Now, it's not to say all the other demographics don't matter, but facts are facts here. 18 to 49, it's always been the key demo. So it's very significant. And even though they obviously didn't beat them overall, to beat them in the key demographic tells you that the product you're putting out there, WWE's product that they're putting out there, is not as compelling as AEW's product, at least in that key demographic. It's so, if you're an AEW fan, for a company to come out of nowhere and be in existence for a few years and be able to put up this type of competition, it's got to give you some encouragement. It's got to be exciting, and it is exciting. So anyway, went way off the rails there, but that I wanted to share with you guys because I do think it is worth talking about for sure. So with all of that said, everybody, again, thank you for listening to this news brief. 20 minutes is where I like to keep it, so I think I hit the nail right on the head. We'll be doing more of these as stories continue to drop. And thank you, everybody. If you want to go ad-free, you know where to do it, Patreon or on Apple Podcasts. There's the ad-free button there. So check us out there. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.